Hey, I'm back, guys. Y'all miss me?
Hey, yes, I missed you.
I couldn't miss episode number 369.
The whole staff of the Odd Musings crew missed you.
Yeah. And all 8 of our fans.
Yeah, welcome back. It's been 2 weeks you were gone, so 3 weeks since your last appearance.
Yeah.
So,
You know what? It's been a weird time this last month. Gauging time. It feels like I've actually been gone longer than 3 weeks from the show.
yeah.
I'm just off on everything. Of course, I got back from Florida with allergies. It turned into that normal upper respiratory crap I get with it. No, I don't have COVID. No, you're not going to catch it. It's all allergy centric, and it sucks.
It's the fun of travel.
Yeah. The other thing is, how everybody tells you, when you go to Florida, usually it's because it's wintertime. They're like, oh, bring the weather back with you. I brought it back. I hope you all are enjoying the thunderstorms, the high heat and humidity, and the other crap. You asked for it, not necessarily this time, but you did before, so now you got it.
Yep.
Not my fault.
Yeah, it's been a weird year for this stuff. I don't know about by you, but here it feels like Florida, like super downpour.
Yep.
And then sunny, super downpour, sunny, all within one day, multiple times. Like that's not normal Michigan weather pattern.
Well, it is really. I mean, it's the thing is that as I tell people down when you go to like Florida and then they go, oh, I bet it's. And even said this last week. They're like, oh, I bet it's nice and cool up in Michigan. I'm like, no. What do you mean no? I said, well, it was cool when we left. That was the first day. Yeah. It's been high 80s, 90. We get high humidity. I said we don't get the. Now the humidity,
you don't get 100% humidity.
No, humidity in Florida is stronger,
right?
And it's more, but we get a ton of humidity here and everything else. We're not far off. It definitely is. When people go, "Oh, I can't believe it's like that," it's like, "Yeah, my dad. How's it this? Dad, it's August. It's freaking hot and high humidity." Really? Yeah. People forget when they haven't been in Michigan for a while or never been. Right. They think that we're in like the Great White North. It's like, no, we're not Canada. We're not in the Yukon. We're not that far north.
Right.
But yeah, it was hot down there. Nice thing was a little bit of rain had moved through Friday, and then and we went to the football game Friday night. We went and saw Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They played the Miami Dolphins.
That's cool.
And it was a preseason game. It was fun. We had a good time. We left just about the fourth quarter starting only because we wanted to, we had to get up for the next day, go back for show. As it was, it still took us a while to get the Uber, to get out of there. Traffic was just nuts and everything else. We still get back to the house till 9 o'clock at the Airbnb, or midnight at the Airbnb. So a little tired that morning when we got going and that, but had a great time. I'd never been there. This is Kevin's, I believe, second or third time going to a game there. And it was fun. We had a great time. Nice stadium. We sat by the ship, so we heard the cannons going off right by us. And they are loud, so we had a great time on that. So Kent went school together and that morning. We've got power at my house. I just didn't have internet, so I'm using my phone for the internet right now, just so I could do the show. But I know around here the storms came through last night. They were pretty nasty.
Yeah, same here.
So it was all over. I was like lightning going nuts, messed with the dog. I woke me up at 2 o'clock, and then I was up for like 2.5 hours trying to get back to sleep, and then slept for another couple hours, got up, had to get the hairs cut and got them cut, and now I'm here. So it's just been a busy morning all the way around.
Yeah.
So fortunately I don't have to work today, but I'll go back tomorrow. So
yeah, here the storms hit a lot of branches down. I only saw 1 or 2 trees, but there are a lot of branches that are down.
Yeah.
A lot of flashing traffic lights still this morning. So hopefully everyone's going to have their power back soon.
Yeah, I hope so. I know some people posted online that they'll have it back by tomorrow night. I didn't see actual numbers of down power on Metro Detroit area, but it's definitely a lot. I know our internet, I was telling Scott, went out just as everything was hitting. So I'm not sure what happened. We did have some good wind, so I have a feeling I had to do some of the wind knocking out a major artery of our internet provider. So
yeah,
that happens.
And like I mentioned to you, even on our streaming, we noticed it was broadcasting at a low resolution last night. So something was disrupting the traffic flow of the internet.
Yeah, I'm sure that the amount of bandwidth it could use was reduced greatly. And they may have did that on purpose just to free it up for different services.
Right.
So that's something to keep in mind. So phones were working good. I I get like 16 gig of hotspot every month, I think is what it said, and hopefully I don't go through that. So I'm trying not to use it too much. I used it a little bit last night for a while and just didn't really use a gig, so now I was on it for a couple hours. So it's not bad. So
Yeah.
but hey, let's go ahead and knock out your Team Titan and go from there.
All right, Team Titans Real Estate. Why? Because you matter. That's right. Even though we utilize the latest in tools and technology to maximize your home buying and selling experience, we never forget, as core, it's a people business. And that's what we do. We take care of you as people. Go figure. It's been a crazy market this year, as most people, if you've been trying to buy a house, you know it is crazy. Not sure where we're at in the market right now. It feels like there's a little bit of a shift happening here, maybe a little bit of a slowdown, but that can be for a couple of reasons, legitimate reasons. For a normal cycle, usually this time of year, the people who wanted to purchase a house and be closed on it before the school year started, most of them have already bought those houses. So that kind of rush kind of has slowed down, which is typical for this time of year. Another typical slowdown is every 4 years we have a national election. And it's very common to see extra bit of a slowdown for August, September, October. And then after the election, we usually see a little spike again in December as the people who decided to wait out the election come back into the market. So that's a normal flow. So the question is this little bit of a slowdown we're having, is it part of those cycles? Or is this something that's bigger? We won't know until December, January to see, did we get that bump again after the election? So time will tell. But people still ask, well, what's the best time to buy or sell real estate? Well, the real answer is when you need to. Life happens, and whatever is the right time for you is the right time to enter into the market. No need to force it. Whether it's trying to time interest rates or prices, no one has a crystal ball. Even going back to 2019, we remember clients who sold their house and went and rented because they were confident the market was at its absolute peak in value and it was going to crash in 2020, and they were going to time it just right to sell in 2019, rent for a year, and then buy again in 2020. Well, that didn't happen. Since then, prices are up 60% or more, depending on where you live, since 2019. So don't try to play the game of timing. Just if your budget and your circumstances are right for buying or selling, do it now. So give us a call. I put our number there in the comments, 586-232-5144. That's our team hotline. You'll either get myself or Jill Webler, and we are here to take care of you.
All right. Yeah, housing's crazy everywhere.
It is. It's crazy. And some of the proposals out there, if the unrealized gains tax gets passed, one party is proposing, I won't get into who or what, but just as an example, if your house went up, in 2022, 20% increases were very common. So if you had a $400,000 house and your value went up 20%, that's your house would have gone up $80,000 in value, and they want to do a 25% tax on that. So that would be $20,000 cash you would have owed for an $80,000 increase in value in your house, even though you didn't sell it. So that's a dangerous thing. I know they are saying, oh, well, that's only for certain people at certain incomes. Well, if you rent, those certain people of certain incomes are probably your landlord, which means they're going to owe insane taxes on the property you rent, which means
your rent's going up.
Your rent will have to cover that $20,000 tax that landlord owes. And if you divide that by 12, he has to increase your rent by $1,700 a month just to cover that tax. So Don't think this is just going to affect one group. And also, as always, taxes become precedents. Once you create a logical reason why a tax is needed, even though they might set it for certain income limits, once the precedent's set, it's very easy for them to reduce.
Well, that's what happened with when they said they were going after the. Well, it's supposed to go after. They're going after the tips
Yep.
There was one. Now they're all talking about they want to give tips for tax free, but it was like, oh, all these people are doing these gig jobs, which I do a gig job. I pay my taxes every year. I file taxes. Oh, they're making over $600 a year doing these gig jobs. We need to go after them. So they hired 18,000 IRS agents to go after them.
Right.
They claimed they were going after just the millionaires and billionaires that
Right.
were not paying their money, but it's like, nope, they started going after that. And that's something to keep in mind. Again, we're not going to get political on here. We're not going to talk too much on that, but keep this in mind. It is us versus them, and they work for us, and we need to make sure they all know that. And
Another
it's not
thing,
one party or another; it's all of them.
Another thing I want to throw out there: if you utilize the services of a gig worker like Shipt or Grubhub or whatever, Uber, whatever it is out there,
Yep.
on the surface, you might think they make a lot of money, but they have a lot of expenses. All that wear and tear, the maintenance on the cars, replacing tires, oil change, all of that comes out of their pocket. That's not reimbursed by those companies. So tip them well.
2/3 of my income is from tips.
Right.
It really is. And I work very hard for that. I provide great service to everybody I deal with, and those that see it and understand it are very gracious with how they tip. Those that don't are also people I choose not to, because I have that choice of participating in the gig work. But yeah, I pay for everything. As an example, since I talked to y'all last, my car took a crap. Transmission went out. And then I found out after I traded it in at a huge loss with negative equity that the engine was pretty much shot too. I told them this is what's going on. It was only 4 years old. Yes, it was out of warranty because I do a lot of driving, but it was only 130,000 miles. It should not have been doing that. So I have a lease car that I'm using another car that we had in the household as my daily driver for work. And now we have a lease car that we use that I'm paying more than I was on my Ford Edge. And it is a 2024 Escape. So I now have 2 black Escapes. Worked very hard for that. And but yeah, it's funny is there's a lot of talk of people hate the tipping culture of the US. I hear this from people that are from other countries where they don't tip. There's people here going, oh, I wish they just give it. Everybody should have a living wage. Well, there are different states are getting the living wages, as people want to call it. Well, the thing is this is with tips is, if you got someone that does a good job and you tip them, they're like, well, I shouldn't have to pay them. It's like, that's how you get excellent service. It's a service industry type, product. And, it's something that, I recommend. I mean, and if you feel like, hey, I don't want to tip, please don't use the services.
Yeah.
There's a lot of my thought on that. Or if you do, just keep in mind that when I hear people complain, oh, I always get bad service. The first thing I want to ask, and most of them I don't, but most of them I ask is, well, do you tip? And those that say, well, no, of course I don't, because I get bad service. It's like, well, did you tip on the good service? Did you ever have good service? If you had good service, it's like when you go out to eat. Now, I knew someone, she always left $1, and it was like, that wasn't even like 10. That wasn't even a good percent. That was even 1% of what the bill was. Well, that's what I got when I was a waitress back in the 50s and 60s. $1 was a lot of money then. The equivalent would have been $10 now. So
$1 was a monthly payment for a car back then.
Yeah, well, not really, but
no, I know exactly.
But still, $1 got you a lot more than it did now. Yeah. So, and that's the whole thing is, I always tip well and always have, even when I wasn't a tip person. So,
$1 now doesn't even buy you a candy bar.
Yeah, but even like this, and it's Kevin put here, California is supposed to have a living wage. It's $20 an hour is their minimum wage now. Everyone still expects to be tipped. They sure do, because all their expenses went up. That's why if you notice, Subway is doing a new special. We are not sponsored by Subway, but if they want us to sponsor our show, we'd be happy to talk about it every week, not just mention them today. But they're going to start doing the $7.99 subs. It used to be $5 subs. Now they're going to $8. All these restaurants, fast food, are capitalizing on these value meals. It's going to be available everywhere except for 3 places. Hawaii and Alaska, of course, they always have to be just because of location, and now California because of the $20 an hour minimum wage. So keep this in mind. Everybody says, well, they can afford to pay. Well, when it's forced upon them, they don't want to lose the money they're making, so they're going to recoup it some other way.
The basic problem in our society, and anybody who supports a living wage, is economics 101 is gone from the education system. Nobody understands how components work. All jobs have a value added component that they provide to the final product. and you can get paid based upon that value added component. Once you artificially force a job to be paid above the value added component, one of two things happens. Either multiple jobs get eliminated and combined into one, and then the one person is forced to do the work of four, or the job is eliminated and automated, which is what we're seeing everywhere with the kiosks, the self-checkouts. They have forced the value added component to go too high, so they have to reduce the number of people involved in the process. It's just the way it is. And then the other option is you keep those jobs, but now you have to artificially raise the prices to a much higher point to cover those excesses beyond the value added components. But once you do that, the consumer now says, well, I have options. I can go to the place down the street that now has kiosks, and they have only one person doing the work of 5 people, and I have to do all the work myself to enter in the order.
Yep.
So you've negated your own value-added proposal that you voted for by doing this. So it's not the way. You cannot artificially force wages. The market will cover it itself.
Well, and people have also forgot that minimum wage was never meant to be your living wage as an adult.
Right.
It was meant to get you as a starter wage, and then you move on from there.
Well, and that's a great point. So what happens is when you create a living wage, anybody so whether you're an entry-level job like a teenager, or somebody who is post-retirement, but you just need to make a little extra money, and you just want all of those lower-end jobs disappear because now you're no longer allowed to pay those rates. So entry-level jobs are gone now.
Yeah.
They don't exist. You have to know somebody to get into the workforce.
They're trying to make the jobs we would do as teenagers. Though you have some adults, of course, usually a little bit become management, stuff like that. But you go get a job at McDonald's. That was supposed to be your starter jobs. You're supposed to learn how to work and understand work and things like that. And then you start looking for something else. You want to do something better. Either you go to a trade school, other school, or you just take on a apprenticeship type job or something like that. Or there's factories, stuff like that. It was all supposed to go from there. Now they're putting. You go to McDonald's and you're going to make the same as now some of the factories because the factories now can't afford to go higher because the minimum wage has already been raised up where they were at. So now everybody's up there, and people are now looking like, well, which job's going to be the easiest to do?
Right.
And the other thing is when you get some of this places. Now I will say this: I've noticed in some of the places I go to, kind of fast foodish places. I don't go to a lot of them. The ones I've been going to, I can tell they're really. They're got people working, but they're really trying to make sure they get quality people, and not just like it used to be where I felt like they were hiring just anybody, at least for the last few years. So some of the ones I frequent quite a bit. I noticed the people have been really nice, they've been pleasant, and if they're not, they don't stay because the people are like, well, you're obviously not good. You can go because they know that there's enough jobs out there that are $16 an hour. They're like, tell them, go find somewhere else that you can act that way. We don't want you acting that way here because they don't want to pay somebody 16, 18, $20 an hour to, slough off.
Yeah, so the entry level goes away, but also incentive. If you're working an entry level job, making, I don't even know what the minimum wage is now, $7, $8.
No, it's more than that now.
Whatever it is, but the point is, at minimum wage, if you need more money, you looked at, okay, how do I get better at what I'm doing, or how do I get educated so I can qualify for a better position? You were motivated to become better to earn that better pay.
Yeah.
It's, how many people, a lot of people I know who are that younger age group, they're not thinking long-term about, well, how do I better myself to get to that other pay? It's like, almost like they've checked out. Well,
it's a thought process that they've got in their heads. Like, well, I should just automatically get
correct
that. And that's like, no, it doesn't work though. Yeah. But it's like Michigan right now is $10.33 is the state minimum wage. It's $15 in some other states. Like I said, California, I believe, is the highest with 20. But it's
10. Is anyone paying that? Like all the local,
well, around me, anyways,
are like 15 or more.
Yeah, around me, it's anywhere from 13 to 18, depending where you're going. I know where I'm out by the Meijer I shop at all the time, where I'm working at. They're 15 at the Meijer, but the Panda Express advertises $18. But they're always hiring, so I wonder if it's just not a good place to work. So they're trying to find, they just can't people, or they just can't get quality people. But it depends. There's some places I know are 16, 17 for some of these Culvers, $17 and $19 an hour if you're part time or full time.
Well, even though the higher end jobs, I talking to somebody who's a controller. They've been trying to hire someone as an assistant controller for their company. Mm-hmm. And these younger people who are educated come in. They got no real world experience, but they have degrees. And everyone they hire, if it's a sunny day, they don't show up to work. If they're mentally stressed, they have to take a mental health day. So they keep going through these people. They're just an assistant controller position should be a higher up level. But when you look them up online, they pay still the same that they paid 20 years ago. So those pays haven't been going up. So a controller now for most companies, I mean, if you're at a really high-end company, that'll be higher. But a lot of these positions you see advertised are $80,000 to $100,000. According to the real estate statistics now, you need to make at least $135,000 to buy an entry-level house now.
Yeah. So
a controller, which is considered a high-end job, can't even buy a house if you're a single person on a single income.
Yep. So everything right now is just kind of screwy on that. And then it goes back to the original thing is so we're not going to get political one party versus another, but it is us versus them. And they forget that. People need to go back and watch PCU and hear the speech at the end. When it used to be, us versus them, the administrators of school, now they made it us versus us. And that's what they've done. And it's all the way around. And we need to, the revolution needs to happen where we actually take back the country and get things back on track and people making decent money by working hard for it. I mean, the thing is you can work smart, start a business, and you're going to work hard at it, but you can, work a little smarter that way too. Because if you control your time, you control things a little better, but don't be worried about, one thing I've never wanted, and I would not want it from any party in control of the White House or whatever, is I don't want the government giving me all my stuff.
No, that's not good.
And that's not a good thing. So, but it's like everything. It's like mom posted here. We were in Tampa flying out, and now they're Skycaps. They don't call Skycaps there. It's a company there, and they charge you $3 per bag to check them in there, or you can take them inside it, or you can take them inside. Take them inside there, and of course, they still wanted a tip. I didn't tip the guy for one reason. He was a complete jerk, and when I told him, he goes, "Well, did you pay for your bags?" I said, "The bags are covered." And then he was like, and so he got $3. He goes, well, Kevin's like, well, he's silver. You're not. I said, oh, I am. I get 2 bags. She gets 2 bags. I paid for her ticket. And I started pulling. Oh, yeah, no. The guy looking next to me, looking, going, what are you trying to do? Because he's trying to scam me is what he's trying to do. I guarantee it. He was trying to get me to have to pay extra. And I was like, no, I'll just drag them all inside then. We were trying to make it easy because Kevin needed to check his bags and then go drop the car off and then come back. And so we were just trying to get everything in. I was like, next time I do Tampa, I was like, I'll just drag everything inside, so I'm not going to pay them anymore. I did the one time and that was it. But, and the reason I didn't tip was like, no, if they're going to start charging me, then they can pay that guy that $3 per bag, where I normally would have paid them a tip, which would have been about $3 per bag. That's what I did in Detroit. I give them money when they take care of my bags outside. They don't ask for it, but they do appreciate it, and they take care of you.
Well, I think, it's this entitlement mentality of where, like you said, it's deserved. It's not earned. I'm supposed to get this. And I think it's a segue into entertainment.
Yes.
I think this is what has bled into Hollywood a lot of times with things like The Acolyte, where they take for granted you're just going to watch it. We're going to put out our version of what we want, and you're going to like it. We're going to even tell you don't watch it. And if you don't watch, we're going to complain that we're canceled, like Acolyte. Well, it's not for you. Just don't watch it. Okay. They had low numbers and they're not renewed. So we have to get back to the mentality of you got to earn it, whether it's entertainment, you got to write a good script. If it's work, you got to make a good burger. You got to do a good job with the luggage. You got to take pride in your work.
And that's everything. And that's something that even we all do. And I'll do a slight segue away. We'll come back into the different media, but we did the Tampa Bay Comic-Con this past weekend. The thing is that, do I want everybody to buy? Yes. When somebody walks up, do I ever say, this is not for you? No, unless they're a child picking up a book that's PG,
Right.
that I've rated as PG-13, saying, well, that
Right.
probably would not be for you unless your mom or dad's here. That'd be
Right.
the only instance. You know, we have worked hard to publish the stuff we have over the years. Next year's my 20th anniversary of publishing, and I tell people that I'm really proud of that. I've gotten a lot of stuff out of the years. I'm really proud of the work that Scott and Kevin and I did on Crimson Shadows. It looks good.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, we sold 12 hardcovers over the weekend, which was great. That's a lot. I'm sorry, that's a lot of books. We sold more than that in total books, but I was so happy we sold 12 of the hardcovers. The hardcover looks so good.
Yeah.
And it's like, and the thing was, it's like I said, no, we put, it's kind of a sales thing, but my thing was like, pick it up and look at it. They picked it up. They're like, oh, it doesn't feel cheap.
Right. We put quality.
And they're looking through. Oh, I like the artwork. Yeah, flip through it. Take a look at it. It looks good. People are very excited to have it. Those that have never read any of them were excited to try it out. We had a couple people that had bought some of the issues or had all the issues, and they were excited to buy the trade because we added more to it. Scott added 20 some odd pages.
28 pages, I think
Yeah.
it was. Plus bonus.
So this 200-page almost trade is equivalent of about 8 to 9 comic books.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
I mean, it's a Scott's a little crazy. We're gonna take him out back and beat the snot out of him next time he does that to us. But but we're happy about that. And the thing is too is like, so we're out there, presenting our stuff, and the thing is all about how we treat it and how we talk to people and everything else, and we explain everything. And it's like I had a guy reach out to me who bought a couple things from me, and he says, I should have got this. So I emailed him, and I got to email him back an invoice, because he wanted a couple more things, and it was, and I love that. And it's like, I don't put my artwork on the store I have, but I think you've got a store set up as well.
Yep.
The only thing I got to do right now, I set it up just to have the Crimson Shadows for San Diego, since we didn't have it, and I would ship it out. And we had an order from that, so that worked out nice. But this way, I'm going to add my other books on there as I figure out my stock and inventory and that.
Yeah.
And then people can order the books there, but I'm not really gonna put the fan art up there. I'll only put original stuff up there right now. And that way, people can order. But it's about building those relationships, stuff like that. And when you go places, you want to have a good relationship building with those people. And it's like that with the entertainment. And the Acolyte did not build any good relationships, in my opinion. Those people that claim to love it cannot tell you what they love about it. They just go, "Why? Well, I enjoyed it. What did you enjoy?" I enjoyed it.
Yeah, but before it even came out, the director, the actresses on it, they came out aggressive, determined to pick a fight with the fans, determined to set a narrative in the fans' heads to have a preconceived notion of what it is, when usually you want to do the opposite. You want as much of a blank slate so the fans can go in and just experience it.
Yeah.
But they came out aggressive. And it's like, we're tearing down the patriarchy, and this is going to be the gayest Star Wars ever. And if you don't like it, you're the problem.
Right.
And it's like, why? Let it just be seen and let everyone make their own decision.
And even with knowing that, because they said that, those exact quotes, I saw those too, all over the internet. I came into it like, okay, I still want to see what they did here. And from the get-go, I could tell the writing was very sloppy.
Yeah.
Most of
fan fiction.
It was fan fiction where they said, well, I like all these elements from the other stuff they've done, so I'm going to put those little scenes into mine and rewrite it and change it a little bit. It wasn't wholly original, which I don't expect. Star Wars, I don't expect tons of originality. You expect some differences, though. And the fact that they're going back quite a ways prior to everything we already knew about Star Wars, they had an open slate to start really building in there, something that could have been really good. No, they're basically taking from the Legends books the idea of the twins that they'd come out with, which was post Jedi. They changed it around. They incorporated the witches from Filoni's stuff into that, and they didn't do it right. So also, and I'm watching this and going, okay. I mean, I watched it once. I'll never watch it again. In fact, right now I read, besides the fact it was canceled, it had already been off the Nielsen ratings, so they weren't even tracking because the streams were so low.
Right.
Nobody's restreaming it. Nobody's watching it again.
Except for once it got canceled, there was a bump, and they're trying to point to that as, see, this is popular. Like, no, you guys are too little, too late now, people. Just because now you're putting on 24 hours a day.
Well, that's what they're doing, just putting on repeat.
Yeah.
Just because I'm trying to show something, but But the thing is that, yeah, they left it on a cliffhanger. Guess what? We've talked about this. You can go back and watch previous episodes. They should have rewrote that entire season. Should have took place in 2 to 2.5 episodes, and then the rest of the season should be finishing up that whatever that story was. But it wasn't. There was never about telling a good story. It was the press prior to the show, and that's what I've told people quite a few times lately. I don't care what you want to throw in these stories. I don't care if it's in LGBTQ, straight, gay, whatever you want to call it, black, white, orange, green, yellow, what, I don't care. I want a good story. Good stories is what matters. And if it's not a good story, it's not worth watching. And it's some I watch for free, and I've seen stuff like, oh, I saw that, don't need to see it again. I watched the Mad Max Furiosa on the plane back. It's like, okay, well, I can watch this. It's not going to cost. I want to see it because I like the Mad Max movies. I like the last one with Charlize Theron. This one is 2 hours and like 15 minutes, and it should have been an hour and 10. Yeah. It was way too much, and it really told nothing new.
Yeah. I did want to point out, though, you mentioned the Acolyte ended on a cliffhanger. We see the true ending. It's out there.
We need to talk.
No talk needed. Listen, you will.
Listen?
Yes. Fired you are.
What?
Cancelled. Kicked out. Dismissed. Let go. Given the axe.
You cannot be serious. What have I done?
Stupid do I look to you? Seen everything I have. Entire Jedi team under your leadership. Dead they are.
Master, I can explain.
Matrix Jedi, Squid Game Jedi, Logan Jedi, even the Wookiee. So much Jedi potential. Dead.
If you would just let me explain.
Tried to hide it from me, you did.
So that gives you an idea.
Done. We are. New direction. We are moving. Yes.
Well, and the whole thing with Star Wars, when we talk about Star Wars, like both Scott and I are still fans of what we loved about Star Wars, is, they keep talking about, you'll see it pop up every couple months. Oh, Rian Johnson's still working on his trilogy. No, he's not. Taika Waititi's doing his movie. No, he's not. It's been canceled. Nope. The only officially produced thing right now is they're finishing up Andor, and the only movie-wise they're doing is The Mandalorian Grogu, and then they do have greenlit season 2 of Ahsoka. That's it. All these other rumors and stuff, it's just rumors. The Kathleen Kennedy one still has not gotten an official green light, still has no script, and is not moving forward at this point in time. Why? Because they're not talking about it. They just had the D23 a couple weeks ago, and if there was anything going on serious Star Wars, they would have talked about it there. They talked about all the other stuff they're doing.
Even the Rogue Squadron movie, Patty Jenkins came out back in March to say she is still doing it, but we have not heard anything else beyond that. Right. Hollywood Reporter had that story.
Right, and that I would trust. But until we see...
But there's been nothing since.
When we see they say it's going into production, it's not going to mean anything. So I think she's back on it, but you can put someone back on it, have them work on a script and pay them and never go forward. That happens a lot in Hollywood.
So my prediction is I do think the Rogue Squadron will happen because Filoni... Now, Filoni might be changing with the direction. I don't know, but Filoni understands how popular the X-Wing and Wraith Squadron novels were for the fans. Yes. And how much people want that. So I could see Filoni maybe mothballing this temporarily to get all of Kathleen Kennedy's fingerprints out of there and then helping Patty Jenkins to craft it properly. So we'll see where it goes. I'm still hopeful for that one just because if they stay true to how the feel and the direction of the novels were, they were great stories.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The X-Wing novels were fantastic. They were, they really expanded on these characters that were not major parts of, that we had Wedge, but early from there, they introduced all these other characters. They mentioned other people here that had passing stuff. They were, I hadn't read all of them, but I'd read a few of them back in the day and they were great. They're all, little mass market paperbacks. They were probably you go buy them for like $3, pick them up. It was a great read. It was great Star Wars written as Star Wars should be written. And the thing is, this is, I get, you get people post all the time. Well, you must hate the strong females. No, I don't. I like good strong females. I love Alien. Ripley's a great character. She was great in Aliens too. There's a lot of other movies out there that we've had great strong characters. Problem is they keep saying they're bringing these strong female characters in,
Right.
and they're not. They're not being realistic with them. And then you go, "What's the movie?" Yeah, well, I don't believe Olivia Munn from Predators could actually flip over with a high-powered weapon, and as a doctor who had never touched a weapon, knew exactly how to do everything with it. I couldn't buy that.
It comes I think the core issue, and I've talked about this before, is authenticity. We are promoting people in many different fields, but we're talking about entertainment here. Writers in particular are getting promoted up to levels that they shouldn't be at. You did a documentary about empowering women. Let's have you write a season of Acolyte and direct it. Like, wait, where's the growth? Where's the, like, as a skill, they've not developed the growth set. So now they're writing about overcoming and, these different things, but it's somebody who didn't have to overcome. So it's not authentic how the story comes out. These characters aren't authentic.
Yeah.
Because there's no truth behind the story, behind the writing. So it falls short. If you want to watch it just for the spectacle, Acolyte, it looked great. It had all the special effects and scenes and feel and nostalgia of a Star Wars show. It had all the drapings. But what was at the core? George Lucas knew what the Force was. Dave Filoni understands what the Force is. These people, the dark side is cool and sexy. No, the dark side's about self-destruction and a path that leads to self-destruction. It's not about being cool and sexy.
And we've been seeing that a lot in these movies the last really 20 years. It's gotten progressively worse. Is they take a villain and they try to it's not really redemption.
Right.
They try to say that the reason they're a villain was other forces made them the villain.
Right. So justify the villain instead of.
And then they try to make the villain the hero, but still keeping him a villain. Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute now. And people love a villain. They truly love. Go to a horror show. They don't talk about the kids that got killed by Jason. They all like Jason.
Right.
That's fine. You want to Darth Vader. Darth Vader is the villain. His redemption happens in the last 5 minutes of Jedi. It's not immediate. It's not like he has a whole other film. It wasn't like he did with Rise of Skywalker, where they completely redeemed Ben and he come out as a Jedi again, and that or light side. It's you do think it's why oh god, what's the one with Angelina Jolie, the Disney one?
I've blocked that out of my memory.
Yeah.
Gosh, she had the wings. She was
yeah. Don't you?
Snow White?
No, it wasn't Snow White.
Sleeping Beauty.
Maleficent.
There it is.
Yeah. I didn't like the first movie. I told Scott that. I said I saw the first movie, didn't like it. I said the problem I didn't like it was they spent half the movie telling you the reason she's bad is because of all these other people, but then they had to redeem kind of in this. And then I didn't watch the second one. I believe you saw it though, Scott.
I saw the second one. So the first one, I agree with all the points you made about the first one, but I still enjoyed it. The second one though went all in on this whole. It was just like all the points you made about the first one, they put on steroids for the second one. And I'm just like, This is just okay. Now this is beyond acceptable. Here we go. Eternal. Someone's pointing out here. We got Krishna pointing out the Eternal. Same thing.
Krishna. Krishna is a wonderful friend. I want to say hi to her. She just had a recent birthday too. And then also
happy birthday.
Her father was William Stolpen. He was always at the Ren fairs. We lost him a few years ago.
Oh, okay. I know who you're talking about now. Yeah.
And just a fantastic artist, wonderful people, wonderful family. Yeah, the Eternals, garbage.
Yeah.
That could have been so much more, and it was garbage.
Yeah, all these like with the Acolyte, not just as a crap on it. There was a core story that could have been good. They could have done what their objective was with just some good writing.
Yeah.
But it was just bad. But like I said, the person who headed this up, you look at her resume. She didn't go through 20 years of building her resume and having successes and failures and learning from those and growing to the point of carrying this massive franchise on her back.
Right.
So then it just became
very
shallow characters.
And I think it's part of the problem with a lot of this stuff is we're getting all these people coming into these franchises, and they are hijacking them for their own agendas or their own storytelling things.
They
When it's
outright
not really good
say it
story.
in their interviews too.
And the problem is that with an existing franchise, you need to respect the franchise. I don't care if it's Star Wars, Star Trek, I wouldn't want them to make an Indiana Jones movie and completely change everything out of that from what it was. Things like that. You can name whatever, even Marvel. With Marvel, I said the Eternals. It's like they lost their way. We knew that was going with Feige though. They already lost their way with all these movies because they were trying to do way too much with everything, trying to justify different storylines, and they didn't know what to do because they had no plan. They within the Marvel, they hijacked their own stuff and went the wrong direction. Now they're starting to come back, and we're seeing that with the people they got directing the next couple movies, major
Sounds
films.
like they're self-corrected,
and it's all this stuff that's just garbage out there. And what I want to see is I would rather have these people go, instead of trying to hijack an existing franchise, change it, say horrible things about the fans that have been there for the last 40 years or more, whatever. Just create something new. Well, and that's the hard part is they're not. The thing with George Lucas was, if you go back and look at his history, it's like he went to film school. I mean, he really learned about it. He wasn't the best student, but he did get into film school. Worked hard for the community college. Got into film school. Happened to meet some people. He won awards for his student films, and he actually won a chance to film a documentary. And it was following Coppola around on was it Finnegan's Rainbow, I believe it was.
Yep.
And he was shooting a documentary, but his documentary wasn't just on how to make it. He did something completely different because, of course, it's 60s. He's an avant-garde director, and he wanted to do his own things. He was doing stuff. Well, he did, with THX 1138. Was not very well received. It's a little more applauded now. It was definitely a completely different sci-fi type movie than what people expected. And then he told a semi-biographical story with American Graffiti and did very well. That kind of set him up where he was like, okay, I don't have to worry about trying to constantly make a movie. Now I want to do something I want to do. And he tried to do, Flash Gordon. And couldn't get the rights for that. So he said,
thankfully he couldn't.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Because it forced him to create his own thing. But he didn't just create a Flash Gordon. He didn't go into Flash Gordon and say, well, I don't like the Flash Gordon universe. I'm going to make it my own. No, he lost. And I do believe he would have been true to Flash Gordon if he had gotten it. But since he didn't, he was forced to make it his own and came up with something completely different. And thank God he had his wife at the time, because by all accounts, everyone says the viewings of Star Wars before she edited it were horrendous. So he had his wife helping him out too, and together they made a masterpiece.
I'll tell you this: there's a book out there. It's the unauthorized, but it's kind of authorized biography called Skywalking. It's been out for many years. It tells the whole story of this, and I recommend if you're interested in understanding filmmaking, it's one of those books I highly recommend. But Marcia was his previous wife. They were married for about 14 years, but together a little bit longer than that. And she was a fantastic editor. She was the editor on a lot of this stuff. And it really helped really make, because when he wrote it, I've seen early drafts that have been leaked over the years. And the Journal of the Wills and everything else before it became A New Hope, and which was just Star Wars at the time. And she helped take all this story he had and then find the actual story he needed to tell. And the smart thing was he did the original Star Wars where it was left open, but at the same time, it was a complete story. If we never had any other Star Wars after that, people would still watch it to this day. It would be, we wouldn't have 25 dealers at a Comic-Con selling lightsabers, but it would have been still held up as one of those single type movies that's out there. But that's the thing is, and I tell this to people on the comic side, they're always like, well, I kind of want to do this, but I'd like to do my own thing with it. It's like, no, don't create your own. Or I over the weekend talked to a guy and another friend brought him over. Well, he's already doing everything he needs to do. He's already publishing his own books. He's working with a publisher. So he's trying to understand more. He really wants to understand Comic Cons. I said, well, you got to just try them. You just got to do it. You got to put yourself out there, invest your time and money, and then see and try to benefit from that. That's all it is. But that's the whole thing I tell people when they come out and say, oh, I want to do this. I'm a good artist. Here's my portfolio. Great. Nobody's hiring. do your own work, write your own stories. Well, I can't really write. Find someone who can write, or I write. I can't draw. Well, I'll try to find someone that can draw then, or start doing stick figures.
You either have to form partnerships or pay money.
Yep.
And you got to keep to your own deadlines.
Yep. And stuff like that. It's just you got to work hard to do it out there. And
even Crimson Shadows to get to that trade, that was 4.5 years of a lot of work for us.
Yeah. There was we all put in countless hours. Kevin, brilliant inking. Love his inking on the work on that. Scott with his initial, not just the writing, but the initial illustration, even Scott's template for the inking and for the initial pencils that he wasn't doing. His pencils were good enough just to be inked. Right. Scott is he goes over the top of that, and he should be slapped and beaten and taken outside and smacked around again.
That's my personal therapy. That's why.
But the thing is that we found out is that
we got Scott Jones chiming in. Yep.
Hey, Scott Jones, happy birthday, buddy! I saw it on Facebook.
Yeah, happy birthday.
And he's but that's the thing is it's worse. But yeah, we put all the work into it. We worked hard on it. And there's a lot of great stuff out there. And you all of us, we have day jobs. We tell people that. Why don't you have more out? Well, if someone would pay us a nice obscene amount of money,
full time,
I would do it full time. It's like I commented on a post the other day or a couple weeks ago, and it's like, if you could be anything in the world, what would you be? And I was like, a billionaire, independently wealthy billionaire philanthropist. And someone commented, "Oh, you want?" That's what they said. I went, "Well, it could be Iron Man." Because he actually uses that line, and if you were an Iron Man, what would you be?
You enjoy life. As Batman, you don't enjoy your money.
Because remember, he's like, he gets well, if you were an Iron Man, what would you be? Well, billionaire philanthropist. Yeah,
exactly.
And
talking about like we've got these people who are kind of hijacking these franchises, and you can watch it in the interviews. Ryan Johnson, he had no interest in a Star Wars movie.
Right.
He wanted to create. Well, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And what if we threw this in? Whereas Abrams, when he wrote Force Awakens, unfortunately, he was too afraid of the franchise and too beholden to not messing it up that he would only agree to writing one. I wish he wrote all three to get the arc finished.
Yeah.
So we had a cohesive voice. And then with Acolyte too, when they're talking, I thought it'd be cool just to throw this in, not thinking out the long-term ramifications of, okay, if I'm inserting something new into this franchise, what are the impacts?
Right.
Is it true to the old? But the problem is we also have these people who are entering the fan base. And it's like, well, I don't like anything about Star Wars for the first 40 years. I want it to have this and that. Okay, well, create a new thing then and be a fan of that.
That's what I think, with that, we've been talking about that is with these younger people, it's like, you need to go explore something else then. Yeah. Because what we had, growing up and being now that we're at a certain age, Scott and I have both reached the half century plus. Growing up in the 80s, the one thing we had that really, I think, helped us with that was the launch of the home video market and the launch of being able access to a ton of crappy movies. Because, hey, I want to do Star Wars. You can't do Star Wars. Okay, I'll do my own. Yeah, it was crappy. We enjoyed a lot of them. They were fun, especially as kids. They went out and did their own things. Ice Pirates. I still love Ice Pirates. It was funny. It was great.
It's a piece of crap movie, but it was
great. Yeah. There's a bunch of them out there. There's tons of them that you can go find now with streaming and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, if you don't like that, go look for some of the other stuff out there. There's a ton of other things that don't have to be a major fandom franchise. And that's and part of that too is with all these kids coming in there, they're tied into these Comic-Cons especially and different things like that. They're tied into the animes. They want all these great fandoms, but then they say, I don't relate to that. And that's fine. You don't have to relate to that. Go explore other things. And as you mature, you may come back around to them someday. I did that as I'm older. I didn't like certain things when I was younger. Oh, this is boring. I didn't like certain. As I matured and I could understand the theming with them, I've gone back and watched some of these older movies, a lot of older 50s, 60s, which I've always loved. But there was some I was like, parents are watching this, or my dad's watching this, or somebody's watching this. It's boring. I don't care. I go back and watch it. Prime example, the Molly McGuire's. I remember seeing it as a kid and was like, I've gone back and watched it years later. I like it a lot more. I understand it better as an adult, and the themes they're using in that. And that's a great way, thing to do. And the problem is that if you don't like this old stuff, there's so much other stuff. And to get to kids, they've done some decent stuff with the animated stuff to bring them in.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Well, I think the biggest problem, and this is society wide, and it's applying to fan bases too.
Mm-hmm.
The word assimilation has been turned into a bad word. When people came to our country in the past, the Italians, the Irish, and these different people, when they came to America, they wanted to become Americans. They assimilated to become Americans.
Right.
Their cultures, their language, their experience, traditions, they still had those, but they didn't try to force it to change America. They still wanted to become Americans and embrace it. And their past experiences enriched what it meant to be American.
Right.
Now it's no longer to become American, but rather I am bringing my culture here, and you will have to change to accept that culture that I just left. And it's that way too with fan bases. It's, well, I don't like what you have. I like the feeling of being part of the group. So I'm going to bring what I want into it, and you have to accept it.
Yeah.
And no, embrace what it is to be part of that fan group. If I want to go if I want to be a Trekkie, I love Star Trek.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to.
See, our biggest battle years ago was you either like Star Wars or Star Trek. People said, I was like, I like them both. Different reasons. I was never one or the other.
Right. But I don't want Star Trek to suddenly have the Force in it.
Yeah.
And Jedis. And I don't want that in Star Trek. I want Star Trek to be Star Trek. I want Star Wars to be Star Wars. And it's okay for them to be separate and to be a fan of each one.
Right. It's just like I've had conversations before. It's Turtles, Teenage Mutant Turtles. I've always loved the comics. I love the original animated series from the 80s. I remember that came on. I like the original movies. They were definitely a little cheesy in times, but they were great. They kept that humor more of the cartoon than the actual comic, and there was a difference there. But I remember when they came out with the Michael Bay ones, and I commented somewhere, and this guy just tried to trash it. Oh, you're not a real fan then if you didn't like it. I'm like, no, being a real fan doesn't mean I have to like everything about it. Yeah. And there's other things they've done since then I've liked. I enjoyed that Turtles Mayhem movie. I thought that was fun. I've liked a lot of the different series they've done, and they've changed the Turtles a lot over the years. And those and they've been fun. The Last Ronin comic series, oh man, that was fantastic. So I like a lot of that stuff. But being a fan doesn't mean you have to accept everything about it, but you find what you like about it, and that's what you gravitate around. And that's true of everything. But to come in and say, well, now I have to change it all to continue on, it's not one. It's you don't discount the existing fans who've been there, but you bring something to it. You might say, okay, well, I would like to see this. If it's something that fits, I can understand. If it's something that doesn't fit, like saying, well, can we just change, who Luke is? No, you can't change who Luke is. Luke is Luke. Han is Han. Those are things you don't change. But as they go and tell news stories, we've seen that. That's why I've told people, go watch The Mandalorian. You go watch, the Book of Boba Fett. You watch Ahsoka. Filoni understood what Star Wars was, and he introduced us to new characters and was able to expand some existing characters without discounting what they had done before.
Right.
And that
this is the all-time best response, I think, to the question about toxic fans, which always seems to be a charge from the group that is coming in that doesn't want to assimilate and honor the past. They want to change it. Yeah. And then when the fans who honor the past are like, wait a minute, this doesn't line up with canon. And it's like, oh, you're just toxic. Well, here's Henry Cavill's response to that, which I just thought was great, because he also is a huge fan of many different things.
Yeah.
Really interesting with this character that I find fascinating, which is that he genuinely really does just want to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. But everywhere he goes, whether it's a new town or a new bar, people just kind of give him a hard time and they rag on him despite the fact that he has great intentions. I'm curious if that's comparable to this sort of world, this culture of toxic fandom, where like if you make a movie, especially if you make a superhero movie, like you have great intentions, but there are always going to be a small yet vocal group of people there can kind of just be toxic.
I understand what you're saying, but when it comes to fans, it is a fan's right to have whatever opinion they want to have. And people are going to be upset because, especially when you're talking about books or games, because you're never going to be the exact person who they had in their head or who they played on Witcher 3, for example. I don't necessarily consider that toxic. I just consider that passionate.
Mm-hmm. That's a great answer. Yeah, and he's referencing books and games because a lot of us have you form the image of what does this character look like and act like and all this in your head. But when you talk about existing franchises, it's the same thing. Luke Skywalker is Mark Hamill.
Yes.
And the way Luke acted is that. Now, Rian Johnson was right in casting Mark Hamill for Luke Skywalker, but the writing wasn't Luke Skywalker.
Right.
And so when the fans who grew up with it saw it right away, it's like, that's not him. That's not Luke.
Yeah, his tone, attitude, everything was different.
Yeah. And even Mark Hamill told him this isn't Luke.
Yeah, and he said he backtracked for a little while during promotion. He told well, you got to promote it. You signed a contract. He's gonna come back out and say, well, they did what they wanted to do. I'm an actor. I get paid to do what they gave me, and that was it. And that's what actors do. And so I don't begrudge him at all because he's like, hey, I got paid. That's what it was for. I'm an actor. That's what I do. But it's just like everything. When you have it in your mind, it's like as Harry Potter. When I read the books first, I had a vision of these characters based on that.
Correct.
The movies changed some of that. They aren't exactly like they're in the book. But now that I've seen the movies enough over the years, I go back and read the books, I still see those voices. And now what's going to change, though, is, and what we got, 1 to 2 years from now, when Max launches the new series for Harry Potter, they're going to go 10 years. So they're getting ready to cast for it. And they're going to tell the books in more detail. Yeah. We're going to have new people playing these characters. And I keep watching going, man, it just doesn't feel as long ago. But you go and look, it's been 23 years since Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's / Philosopher's Stone was released in theaters. All those guys, character people are that were the kids, are all in their 30s or older. Rupert's got a kid. Daniel's got a kid. They're all over the place in terms of real lives. They're not those people, never were. But
here's the thing: if you honor the source material and you do a good job with it, it's going to be like Battlestar Galactica. When that first came out, I have to admit, the first 3 or 4 episodes, it was so hard for me to accept Katie Sackhoff as Starbuck. And it felt so different than what I knew. But they were good, and they kept going. And right around episode 5, 6 or so of that season, I started being like, you know what? I do like this. And then by season 2, it's like, it's even hard. Now it's hard for me to watch the original Battlestar because now for me, and I say the new Battlestar, that's 20 years old now.
Yeah, it's over 20 years now. Yeah, it came out.
But they did such a great job with that for me.
And the thing they did was, you had one season of Battlestar Galactica in the 70s that set up the basic premise of what Battlestar Galactica is. So they didn't have a chance to go any further than that because it got canceled. They did a Battlestar 1980 and it was garbage, and
no one counts that one.
But so the new one came out, I was like, okay, I love Battlestar. And it was definitely different. It was a different feel when you got
it took a realistic,
some of the male characters that we're used to were now female. But they still made it tough. And they started off Starbuck as trying to almost emulate the original one, smoking the cigar, stuff like that. Yeah. And the whole tone of the show kind of did change after the initial stuff. It became more of a political drama in space.
Yeah.
And we still had some of the action, stuff like that. And they had all these characters, and then they twisted everything. They changed everything around completely, but they still kept the basic premise of what Battlestar Galactica was. It was this AI culture that had been created by the humans came to now destroy the humans. Basically, they were trying to destroy their own creators and then create themselves and go from there. And that's kind of what we saw here throughout the whole thing. And now, I mean, if that show came out now, I mean, with all AI talk, people would go nuts on that. Oh my God, it's AI. If you have never watched the Battlestar Galactica from the 2000s, go back and watch it now, because you will now be able to have more reference with how AI is here and use of that versus what they were doing back then.
Yeah, and the hard part about watching the original now is because that era, everything was kind of cheeky sitcom.
Well, it was also very 70s, and the hairstyles and everything else. And they didn't try to change. I mean, even Star Wars: A New Hope. When you look at the hair and everything, a lot of people, it had a kind of a 70s feel, but it was the thing was he didn't try to 70s gloss it. He tried to make it a little more rougher and change up, and that's what helped with that. And then of course when he got into Empire, then things changed from there in terms of looks, and he went with a considered look on that. But
with the tone, after seeing, I always watched the original and loved for Battlestar Galactica.
Yes.
Then after the new series came out, it's like, it's humanity fighting to survive. Like the happy-go-lucky tone of the original, like Suddenly, after
But
seeing
even-
how
but even
gritty
then-
they made it, it made more sense.
Yeah, but even then with the original one, they did a lot of changes in that
They
one
did.
season. I mean, they introduced another Battlestar. They just
Mhm.
there's a lot of conflict going on within the
Oh,
thing. I mean,
yeah.
you had the Cassiopeia. I think she was the courtesan type woman, and she was not being accepted. I mean, they dealt with something
Mhm.
like that.
Oh yeah.
Like, well, we don't like her, even though there's only like 500 humans left. We don't want her, and so they had to
Yeah.
move that. They dealt with that issue. They dealt with who the Cylons were, how they were actually, how the humans were actually betrayed by one of their own.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So they dealt with it like that. They just didn't have time to really get
The-
further deep into that.
The series, I do hope, gets revived, and I don't know. It's always a copyright issue, but Buck Rogers, that's another one that if you did like a version similar to how they treated Battlestar Galactica in a
Yes.
series, would be amazing. I think. I mean, the design
And
of
that's
the
another one.
ships and everything are so cool.
And that's another series I loved, especially as a kid, was the Buck Rogers. I liked the first season a lot. The second season, not as much. I remember the first time I ever met Aaron Gray, and this was about 20 years ago, over 20 years ago at Motor City Comic Con. And I got an autograph from her and Gil Gerard. But I was talking to her about it. I said, I always loved the first season.
Mhm.
I said, what happened in the second season? I mean, why did they change it so much? And of course, I mean, I said, I understand money. And I told her that. And I said, but it's like your character was just, again, a great, strong female character that when New Shoulders, I think it was, they relegated. She goes, yeah. She goes, I was this great character in the movie / series. And then they changed it to, oh, Buck, here comes some baggage. And I got him in a little skirt,
But how much of that? I'd be curious to see the timeline. How much of that is Daisy Duke's popularity in Dukes of Hazzard? Did that
Could have
line
been.
up time wise, and they were trying to compete with that?
I think they were trying to go with, they got rid of a couple of the actresses from the first season because they weren't dealing with the Draconians, so they didn't have the princess and all that stuff. And I think that was part of it. They were also on a starship traveling the universe. They tried to make it almost Star Trekky in some ways,
Okay.
which I felt was a wrong decision, and stuff like that. I think going back to whoever was back, if they go back to Buck Rogers, get the original source material.
Yeah.
And start from there. There's all the great novels, stuff like that, pulps and things like that from way back in the look at that, and then from there craft something that's a little more modern, go from there. And you take the man, I mean, they've done that in other stuff.
Captain America, Man Out of Time.
Man Out of Time is definitely a way to go.
It's a fun storyline to contrast value changes over time.
Yeah. So what was the one? I was trying to think of one. Oh gosh, it was on for like 4 or 5 years. Came out. It was one they used Henson did the puppets for it. But they were on the ship. Farscape, yes. Farscape in a lot of ways was Buck Rogers.
Yeah.
And it was really to go in that. And
Farscape was a fun one too.
Now Christian means love, but she loves Aaron Gray, and I think and Farscape, yeah, thanks. Great series. I'm gonna go watch, and stuff like that. But it really is I just really wish we could see more stuff that's got better writing, better storytelling, and better character crafting. And not trying to, when you come in with the agenda first before you write the story, I think that unless you're telling a specific story that's meant to be around that, more of a drama based on a true story, things like that, that's fine. But when you're coming into, these creating a sci-fi series or this fantasy type series, stuff like that, you got to create these great characters that people are going to want to relate to. And that's the whole reason we love Star Wars. Really, we grab these characters, as a kid. What do you want to be? I wanted to be Luke Skywalker, or I wanted to be even though stormtroopers are bad guys, you kind of like the stormtroopers are kind of cool, they were different. There was something new. Or I want to be Han Solo, I want to be Wubaka the Chookie, whatever. I don't know.
Wubaka the Chookie.
That's from Muppet Babies. When they did a Star Wars, they called him Wubaka the Chookie. So, but stuff like that, and I just like to see that more. I think that I'd like to see these younger people. They can tell whatever story they want, but creating their own.
Yeah, but you brought up a good point too. Like we're talking about good writing, but it's also, I mean, you got the technicalities of a story arc and all that, but you got to have the heart of the characters. Harry Potter, it's character driven. Star Wars is character driven. You care about the characters. Star Trek, Spock, it's that the
rule of three. We talked about that a while back. Yeah,
Spock, Bones, and Kirk. If you get that core going, it can really gain traction.
And then all the other characters that everybody can still love are the ancillary characters around that 3, but you have to have that core 3. I mean, even
Yeah.
Big Bang Theory, you had the 3 main one, Penny, Leonard, and Sheldon. I mean, that was the 3
Right.
main ones. There's a lot of other great characters,
Yep.
but they had that rule of 3, and that's kind of our, so we've talked about it, is we've kind of recognized a lot of stuff as this rule of 3, is how that correlates into telling good stories, and it's not the rule of 1. And that's where I think sometimes they're losing some of this. They're trying to make the rule of 1 and make it only about one person.
Or of 2, or of many.
Yeah. 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 From
Right,
there.
nope.
Stuff like that. But yeah. So, yeah, we kind of got a low on different traffic here, so we sometimes do it.
Yeah,
on
we didn't
music.
even cover, I think, the stuff we were going to talk about. Evil and... Oh,
Yeah,
you
well-
went to the Lions? Well, I mentioned the Lions really quick. You went
Yeah,
to the-
yeah. So I got a chance 2 weeks ago. I wasn't here because of my brother gave us tickets to go to the last Lions practice, open practice. So we got a chance to be at a VIP tent. We were about 10 feet away from Dan Campbell because he came in to talk on 97.1. So we got to see him.
How big is Dan Campbell in person?
Oh,
He
he's
has to be
huge. He's a mountain of a man. He was just huge.
Were you
And
there when Hogan was there? Hulk Hogan?
no, Hogan
Okay.
was the practice he went to was not an open practice. I believe it was a closed
Oh, okay.
practice. And then so this is the last one. So we got to see players. I'll tell you what, that new kicker they got that came in from the USFL, the Michigan Panthers, he was great to watch. He's going to be something for this
Didn't
team.
he do like a 70-yard kick or something? I
In
don't know if it
the
was when you were there,
USFL, it was like 67, but he was kicking
Wow.
50 to 60 yards while we were there.
Can you imagine
hit
being able to
the-
hit a 70-yarder?
Problem he has, though, and this is something I have to work on, is he can hit the distance. He has trouble close up. And I saw that at the
Oh,
practice
interesting.
when he was like trying to get the extra points. That's a problem he kind of has. I think is getting that is, and then problem is he came from being a soccer player to this, so he's good at getting that distance. It's just trying to get that there. He kind of curves a little too much when he's trying. I think he's overcompensating, being closer than farther away. When he's
Okay.
got a little more leeway. But he's still something. I think they'll work with him. He'll come around good. They've got another kicker that's fantastic too. So I think they got the kicking set up. I heard they're only going to go with the 2 quarterbacks. Which I think they look good. We saw Goff play. We saw doing a little scrimmage, score a touchdown with Amon Ra right by us in the tents we were in, because we were in the VIP tents.
Did you actually get to meet the players?
If I stuck around and we wanted to stay for hours, we probably could have tried to, but they took the kids where we were at and lined them up to meet a player, and everybody else was lined up. There was a player, a Legends player, I couldn't really see who it was, where a bunch of people were in line for that, and we were just like, well, practice was about done, so we ended up just leaving. We had a great time. I just didn't feel like standing out there for 2-3 hours afterwards trying to get autographs or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I had a great time seeing them and checking it out. Loved it. Excited for the Lions this year.
Excellent.
And then last week, the reason I wasn't here, besides Wednesday being my birthday last week, we were already in Tampa getting ready for Tampa Bay Comic-Con. So we were out running, having some fun on Wednesday, Kevin and I and Mom.
Yep.
And then getting ready and then Thursday we did the setup and got a chance to hang out with Vinny and Lisa from T-24. They got a lot of great new shirts you should check out at TEMINUS24.com. I think our code ODD still works for 10% off. I don't think I've ever taken it off. If it doesn't, it won't hurt to try it. So we got a chance to visit with them again, and this is the last show we'll see them at. We're all together because they're going to be doing different shows. So we at New York when we're at Cincy, so that kind of throws off a little what they're doing there. And so we just had a great time. The show was fantastic. We loved launching the books down there, like we did. Hadn't been back in 3 years. Unfortunately, probably at least be another 2 years before we get back down there because they moved the dates next year to the week after San Diego, and we just can't do a show after San Diego anymore. It's just too tight, too tiring.
And then your next show is 2 weeks?
Yeah, we're leaving next week to go to Portland. I'm actually supporting Kevin as he'll be listed under Kevin Minert. He'll be in Artist Alley. I'll be there supporting him, helping him out with the Rose City Comic Con. It'll be in Portland, so I will be getting some voodoo donuts. So that will be happening. And then our next show after that we'll be at Spooky Empire in Orlando. That's in October. That is the weekend leading up to Columbus Day. And then the following weekend is the Cincinnati Comic Expo. So I got back-to-back shows, which is tough, but it's easier to work that because they're East Coast shows versus doing a West Coast show, then coming to East Coast show.
You really got slammed from July through October there.
Yeah, this year it's everything's kind of
It's like the old days.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So it's just boom, boom, boom in that. And then we're looking at next year, a few different shows. We'll be releasing those dates as we have them. I'm sure I'll be back at Motor City in May. Scott is on the wait list, but hopefully Scott will be at Motor City in fall. So if y'all have any, call and say we want Scott Zambelli and Bardstone at the Motor City in fall.
Yeah.
He'll be there and he'll have the new books. And then who knows if something else pops up that looks like I could do, I may try something, but I think it's the way his schedule's falling for personal stuff too. It's just not going to be the cards the rest of the year after that. It's tough to do a lot of these different shows. I don't like, and for me, I've already done a couple of Michigan shows, so I try to not do too many in Michigan because if y'all see me too much, you don't buy enough. But I love seeing y'all anyways, and
That's right.
and stuff like that. And it's like Scott, haven't seen Christian in a while. They don't come on as much anymore, but Christian, definitely before we sign off here, send some love to your mom and Jamie, and my best to Steven, her husband, and hopefully get to see you guys sometime. We'll have to figure out dinner or something like that and make a plan and go from there. I know we're all busy and hard, but we'll try to figure that out again someday. So,
Awesome.
yeah. So other than that, anything else, Scott?
That's it.
Hey, y'all have a great week. We'll see you next week for sure.
Take care.
Bye.